The first time I heard the word justice, it wasn't in a courtroom. It was on my brother's social media. I was sitting at my kitchen table, coffee going cold, when a notification popped up. A smiling selfie of him in front of an empty apartment building. The caption read, "Sometimes life corrects itself. Justice served." I stared at the screen and felt my stomach drop. My name is Amelia Hartman. 2 months earlier, my father-in-law had trusted both of us with one of his apartments while he moved abroad. No rent, no contracts, just trust and the simple instruction to keep it safe. I believed my brother would respect that. I wanted to believe it. Now the building behind him looked sealed, quiet, and unmistakably final. I called him immediately. He answered laughing. "Relax," he said. "It's just an apartment." "Not your apartment," I replied. My voice shook despite my effort to keep it steady. In the background, I could hear music, friends, clinking glasses, celebration, not remorse. When I hung up, my hands were trembling. I opened my email and saw a message I hadn't noticed before, a formal notice from the property management office addressed to us both. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice that would pull me in with him. The notice was worse than I'd imagined. It didn't say lost. It said terminated for misuse, words that carried weight, records, and consequences far beyond one building. The manager wrote that the unit had been used for unauthorized short-term rentals and illegal gambling nights. Our names were listed together at the bottom. I called my father-in-law before my brother could spin another story. His voice was calm at first, then carefully controlled. "Amelia, I trusted you both," he said. "Not him alone." That sentence hurt more than any accusation. I tried to explain that I'd never set foot in the apartment after the handover, that I'd asked my brother to treat it like family property, not profit. He listened, but listening is not the same as believing. When I confronted my brother again, his tone shifted. Less laughing, more irritation. "You're overreacting," he snapped. "Everyone does this. They're just being dramatic." Then he posted again. Another photo, another caption about haters. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. This wasn't just reckless, it was public. Permanent. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying my father-in-law's silence, my brother's smirk, and the management letter on my screen. By morning, one thought was clear. If I didn't act, his mess would become my life. I stopped reacting and started collecting. At first it felt cold, almost cruel: screenshots, timestamps, names, receipts. But every piece of evidence steadied me. My panic turned into precision. I reached out to the property manager myself. Calm emails. Direct questions. No excuses, no drama. Within hours, I received logs showing keycard entries, camera timestamps, and guest lists tied directly to my brother's phone number. None of them had my name anywhere near the property. When I sent in the documents, he didn't apologize. He mocked me. "Always the perfect daughter," he wrote. "Can't handle real life." That sentence struck harder than I expected. For years, I had swallowed his recklessness because calling it out made me difficult. This time, I didn't swallow anything. I forwarded everything to my father-in-law with a single message. "Here are the records. I'll accept whatever decision you make." He didn't reply right away. The silence stretched long enough to make my chest ache. That evening, my brother posted again, laughing in front of a luxury bar, calling the apartment dead weight, and me too soft for the world. I watched the video twice, then closed my laptop. Because in that moment I understood. This was no longer about saving face, it was about saving my future. The call from my father-in-law came the next afternoon. I answered standing by the window, sunlight cutting clean lines across the floor, as if the world itself was asking me to speak clearly. His voice was steady, not angry, not cold, just deliberate. "I've reviewed what you sent," he said. "And I've reviewed what your brother posted." I waited. He didn't rush. He never had. That's what made the next words land so hard. "I believed him at first," he admitted quietly. "I was wrong." Relief moved through me so fast it almost hurt. But I didn't interrupt. He told me he had contacted the property management office directly. The evidence was decisive: camera logs, payment trails, digital keys, timestamps that mapped perfectly to my brother's bragging posts. None of it touched me. All of it pointed straight to him. "What do you want?" he asked finally. Not accusing, not testing, just asking. I exhaled slowly. "I want my name cleared. Nothing more." There was a pause. Then, "You'll have it." When we hung up, my hands were still shaking, not with fear this time, but with something steadier. Because for the first time since this began, the story was no longer being told by my brother. And that shift, quiet, precise, undeniable, was only just beginning. My brother didn't take the call well. When my father-in-law reached him, his confidence cracked in real time. First denial, then jokes, then anger, like layers peeling off too fast. I listened later to a recording my father-in-law shared, and what struck me wasn't the volume of his voice, but the panic underneath it. "Everyone does this," he kept repeating. "You're making an example out of me." The property manager sent a formal report the next morning. Fines were outlined, contracts terminated in his name, and, most importantly, a clear statement that I had no involvement in the misuse. My name was removed from every document.
Clean.
Official. Final. I forwarded that letter to my family without commentary. No victory speech. No lecture. Just the truth in black and white. My brother deleted his posts within hours. Screenshots, of course, had already been saved. He called me that night, voice low, suddenly careful. "You could have warned me." I sat quietly in my living room, looking at the ceiling I had never gambled with. "I did," I said. You laughed. Silence stretched between us, not dramatic, just heavy. And for the first time, I understood something clearly. Accountability doesn't need rage. It only needs evidence. The consequences arrived quietly, but they were relentless. The property management company didn't shout or threaten. They simply moved with legal precision. Formal notices, verified records, and a payment schedule that left no room for excuses. My brother stopped calling them dramatic. He stopped posting altogether. Silence replaced swagger. My father-in-law invited me to his office a few days later. Not as a scolded child, as someone he trusted again. He placed a single document in front of me, an official clearance letter separating my name entirely from the apartment. "I should have listened sooner," he said. I nodded. Not in triumph, in relief. Outside, my brother's life began to shrink in small, visible ways. Friends faded. Invitations stopped. The same internet that had once applauded him now felt colder, emptier. He texted me once more, brief and bitter. "You didn't have to take it this far." I stared at the message and didn't reply. Because this hadn't been about taking anything anywhere. It had been about refusing to stand beneath a lie. That night, sitting alone in my living room, I finally allowed myself to breathe, slowly, deeply, completely. The storm had passed. And for the first time, I understood how powerful stillness could be when it stood beside the truth. He came to my door on a rainy evening. No bravado this time, no jokes, no deflection, no audience. Just my brother, soaked, standing awkwardly on the mat like a man who'd lost both his footing and his story. "I didn't think it would go this far," he said before I even opened the door fully.
I didn't invite him in.
I didn't need to. The threshold was enough. "Thinking isn't the same as caring," I replied quietly. His face tightened. He looked older in that moment, not because of the fines, but because reality had finally caught him without a camera, without applause, without escape. "I was just trying to look successful," he muttered. I studied him for a long beat. "You gambled with someone else's trust instead." He lowered his eyes. For the first time, there were no excuses ready. No performance. Only discomfort he couldn't talk his way out of. Rain drummed against the roof. A car slid past on the wet street. Ordinary life continued around us, while something in our family quietly shifted. Before he left, he whispered, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head.
No.
"I just don't owe you silence anymore." He walked back into the rain, without another word. And as I closed the door, I realized something steady, and unexpected. Boundaries don't burn bridges. They reveal which ones were real all along. 2 weeks later, everything looked ordinary again. No headlines. No angry calls. No threatening letters. Just quiet, the kind that feels earned instead of forced. My father-in-law called once to check in, not as a judge, but as a person who had learned something painful about trust. "I'm sorry," he said simply. I accepted it without drama. Some apologies don't need ceremony to matter. My brother paid his fines in installments.
Slowly.
Humbling. I didn't monitor it, didn't gloat, didn't rescue him. Consequences did their work better than I ever could. One evening, I drove past the apartment building. Lights glowed behind clean windows, strangers moving through lives that had nothing to do with us anymore. It didn't feel like loss, just closure. At home, I pinned the clearance letter to my board, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Truth, when supported with evidence, does not need theatrics. My brother texted once more. "I'm trying to do better." I replied, "Honestly, that matters to you." And I meant it, because this story was never about revenge, humiliation, or justice. It was about something quieter and stronger, refusing to be dragged into someone else's lie, and discovering that when you stand still with the truth, the world eventually adjusts around you.